The morning was too quiet on Elm Street. No sirens, no news vans, just the sound of a single eviction notice being stapled to a wooden door. Alan Myers, a 47-year-old former factory supervisor, stood in his bathrobe staring at it, lips trembling. He said, "It's all gone. Everything." Alan had worked 26 years at Midstate Manufacturing before the plant closed overnight. No warning, no farewell. One Friday he clocked out with plans to take his daughter to the zoo. By Monday, the gates were chained. His severance vanished in a speculative investment scheme suggested by a trusted banker. The funds evaporated in a Wall Street collapse that never made it to the local paper. Behind him, his daughter Lily, 10, peeked out, clutching a half-pack backpack. "Daddy, are we leaving again?" she asked. The house was silent, except for the buzz of a dying refrigerator. Across town, investment brokers in suits celebrated quarterly gains. Alan's name appeared only in a margin call. He had lost the house, his pension, his peace. But on paper, America was growing. That same morning, thousands of miles away, Olivia Wexler, CEO of Trident Capital, watched the sunrise from her Manhattan penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling glass walls reflected her silhouette over the city she partially owned. She whispered, "Market opens in 10. Olivia, 39, brilliant, ruthless and unapologetic, built her empire trading on debt. Foreclosures like Alan's were data points on her dashboard, green lights on her algorithm. She didn't hate people like Alan. She didn't think about them at all. A notification blinked. Cool QQ, profits surpass forecasts by 38%. She sipped her espresso, the skyline glowing gold behind her. Her assistant entered. "You're trending again. Forbes just called you the new queen of finance." Olivia smirked. "Then let them kneel." To her, Wall Street wasn't a street. It was a weapon. A machine. And today, that machine was hungry. Back on Elm Street, the sheriff's car pulled up. Alan didn't resist, he simply stepped aside. Two movers walked in, young, tired, barely making rent themselves. One whispered, "I hate this part." They boxed photos of Lily's birthday, Alan's wedding, decades in minutes. Alan sat on the porch, unmoving. The neighbors peeked through blinds, then closed them again. One mother herded her children away. Shame spread like smoke. Lily sat beside him, holding his hand. "Where will we go now?" she asked. Alan didn't know. He looked at the movers, kids doing the job of cruelty, and felt nothing but emptiness. Across the street, a car idled. Inside, a real estate agent smiled, updating a listing. Price to flip, fast closing, excellent profit margin. The house wasn't a home anymore. It was a number in someone's spreadsheet. By 11 a.m., Alan was gone. The house, now staged, smelled like cinnamon and fresh paint. Photos were replaced with curated art. A young couple toured the space with a mortgage broker, enchanted by the open kitchen and refinished hardwood. "It's perfect," the woman said. No one mentioned the family who had cried in this room 3 hours earlier. No one saw the scuff marks on the baseboards, or Lily's name carved into a windowsill. The past was scrubbed clean. Outside, a sign read, "Welcome home." Inside, memories had been erased. The cycle moved fast, lost to profit in a blink. For Wall Street, this was efficiency. For Main Street, this was grief without a funeral. And the system? It never paused, not even for a goodbye. At day's end, Alan and Lily sat in an old sedan parked behind a gas station. She slept in the back seat under her jacket. Alan watched the sun dip, face lit by flickering neon. He clutched a photo of her 5th birthday blinking hard. He whispered, "I failed you." But it wasn't failure. It was the cost of a system designed to extract. He wasn't alone. All across America, stories like his played out, homes lost, dreams auctioned. And above it all, the market surged. This was not a recession. This was a harvest. And Alan, he was the crop. Alan pulled into the gravel lot of a worn-out roadside motel. The neon sign blinked vacancy like a mocking echo. But with only 67 left, he paid for one night. The clerk didn't ask questions. He'd seen too many Allens this week. Inside the room, the air was stale, the carpet sticky. Lily sat on the bed, tracing circles on her jeans. "Will I still go to school, Daddy?" Alan stared at the ceiling, words stuck in his throat. "I'll figure it out," he lied. He opened his phone's banking app. Balance, 3.12. He closed it quickly. Across the room, a broken TV screen flickered with news. Markets rally as Wall Street celebrates another record-breaking quarter. Alan shut it off. The silence returned. A silence too heavy for a child to sleep under. He lay beside Lily, holding her close, listening to her breath steady. But his eyes stayed open, waiting for a miracle. Or maybe just morning. Across the country, Olivia stood inside a marble lobby of Trident Capital's tech campus. The morning sun refracted through glass walls, bouncing off chrome fixtures. Her stilettos echoed on polished floors. "Morning, Olivia," employees chirped, eyes averting quickly. She didn't respond. She was reading a memo. Mid-state factory asset liquidated. ROI projected. Untold 4%. That factory had been Allen's. Olivia didn't know that. She didn't care. She moved into the boardroom like a general. Her CFO, a pale man with nervous fingers, handed her quarterly projections. "You're about to become the largest private lender in the Midwest." Olivia smiled, but not kindly. "Then let's begin the conquest." Her empire was built on foreclosures, failed dreams, and margin calls. To her, debt wasn't a burden. It was power. And she knew exactly how to weaponize it. In the motel bathroom, Alan stared into the cracked mirror. He hadn't shaved in days. His eyes looked hollow, the color of old pennies. He turned on the tap, just a slow drip. He wiped his face with a threadbare towel. Then he pulled out a small envelope from his coat pocket. Inside was Lily's drawing, a house with a garden and smiling stick figures, labeled Mame and Daddy. His throat tightened. How do you tell a child that home isn't a place anymore? That it's a moving target? He walked back into the room, knelt beside her. "Lily, we're going on a little adventure, all right?" She looked at him, unsure. "Will it have a dog?" she asked. Alan forced a smile. "One day, yeah. One with floppy ears." He lied again. Because hope, however false, was the only thing he could still afford. Back at Trident HQ, Olivia faced the data wall, massive screens flashing housing trends, foreclosure maps, debt portfolios. A pin dropped every few seconds onto a digital map. Another home seized. "That's 23 today," her analyst said. "Efficient," she replied. Yet beneath the control, a flicker of memory. Her childhood in a small Ohio town. A foreclosure sign on her own lawn once. She had buried that memory deep. Now, she profited from others who never escaped. A moment passed. She blinked it away. "Prepare the acquisition team. I want rural properties locked before the next rate hike." The analyst nodded. "We're becoming landlords to America." Olivia smiled coldly. "We already are." She turned away from the map, her reflection flickering between the homes she broke and the empire she built. That night, Alan couldn't sleep. The motel room felt smaller, the air heavier. He stepped outside into the cold, empty parking lot. Overhead, the stars blinked like dying streetlights. He lit a cigarette, something he hadn't done in years. The smoke curled upward, slow and defiant. He wasn't angry, he was numb. He remembered a time he believed in systems, in fairness, in reward for work. Now he believed in none of it. Just Lily. She was the only thing left worth fighting for. He whispered into the dark. "I won't let you fall with me." Across the street, a billboard glowed. "Secure your future. Invest with Trident Capital." Alan stared at it, a cruel joke lit in neon. Somewhere in a tower, someone was celebrating. Down here, he was just trying to breathe. Alan sat in the public library, eyes scanning a dim screen. His phone had died 2 days ago. He searched free housing support, work for cash, temporary shelter with child. Every link ended in a dead end or a waiting list months long. Around him, others did the same. Faces aged by fear, hope crushed quietly. Lily sat nearby, drawing houses again. Her crayons were down to stubs. A librarian walked over, whispering, "You can only stay until 4. Alan nodded. His stomach growled. He hadn't eaten since yesterday. He glanced at a flyer pinned on a corkboard. Become a delivery driver. Earn daily. It wasn't ideal. It was survival. He tapped the number into a borrowed landline. "Yes," he said, "I've got a car. I can start now." He hung up, looked at Lily. "We've got a gig." He tried to sound proud. She smiled. And he almost believed it. By nightfall, Alan was driving food deliveries for a startup app. His sedan creaked with every turn. No benefits. No insurance. Just $2.25 per drop. He navigated glowing phone maps taped to his dash. Lily slept in the back seat under a blanket. Every time the car stopped, she stirred but never complained. He delivered to luxury condos and trendy bistros, places he once couldn't afford even on payday. One customer gave him a 1-star rating for being too slow. He had stopped to help Lily go to the bathroom at a gas station. He didn't reply. Couldn't. Reviews controlled shifts. Alan kept driving. By midnight, he'd earned 34.12. Not enough for rent, but enough for fast food and fuel. He sat at the drive-through speaker and said, "Can I get a kid's meal?" It was the only time his voice didn't crack. Back at Trident, Olivia met with her lead strategist. "Our AI modeling just flagged Mid-State County as the next ripe zone," he said. A next ripe zone. Foreclosure saturation is ideal for acquisition." Olivia reviewed the maps. Streets like Elm Street glowed red. "Push it," she ordered. "We'll package the losses, sell them upstream as distressed asset bundles." The room nodded in agreement. "What about the families?" one intern dared to ask. The room went silent. Olivia turned slowly. "They don't own the homes," she replied. "Their liabilities data." The intern shrank back. Profit graphs returned to the screen. The intern wouldn't ask again. The line between data and humanity blurred until it disappeared. For Olivia, this wasn't cruelty. It was clarity. And clarity always paid well. Alan's car broke down on a rural delivery. Battery dead. Signal gone. Rain poured hard. He carried the food 2 blocks in the dark, shoes soaked, heart pounding. Lily waited inside the car, curled up. The customer scowled when he arrived. "Took you long enough." Alan didn't answer. The man slammed the door. Alan stood in the rain, fists clenched, chest rising. He wanted to scream. But screaming didn't pay. He returned to the car, drenched. Lily looked up, sleepy-eyed. "Are we okay?" she asked. Alan nodded. "Always." He opened the last fries and gave them to her. She smiled. And in that moment, soggy, tired, defeated, he felt something dangerous stirring. Rage. Not hopelessness. Not despair. But the fire of a man pushed too far. That night, Alan found a free church shelter on the edge of town. Rows of mats, soft chatter, weary faces. Volunteers offered warm soup. Lily curled up beside other kids, eyes finally calm. Alan sat awake, staring at the ceiling. A man next to him in his 60s whispered, "First time?" Alan nodded. "You get used to it. Until you don't." Alan asked, "What happened to you?" The man replied, "Same thing that's happening to you. The world moved on without us." Alan looked at the cross on the wall. Not for hope, just something to focus on. This was a battlefield too. But here, no armor. Just breath, sleep, and and stories buried behind tired eyes. Alan knew then, he wasn't just poor. He was invisible. Inside a crowded food bank the next morning, Alan stood in a slow-moving line, clutching a form. Lily waited by the door, her arms wrapped around her backpack like armor. A volunteer scanned Alan's form. "You used to live at 143 Elm?" Alan nodded. "That property was bought last week by Trident Holdings. You're not eligible for the relocation voucher. It's no longer considered public access foreclosure." Alan froze. "But I lived there. We were evicted." The volunteer looked away. "There's nothing we can do." That name, Trident, hit Alan like a brick. He'd seen it. The billboard. The app. The bank. It was everywhere. And now it had taken his pass. He staggered out, gripping Lily's hand. The enemy wasn't a man. It was a machine. And he'd just found its name. Back at Trident HQ, Olivia reviewed internal memos. A headline caught her eye. "Grassroots uprising against Trident Holdings grows." A photo showed a man holding a protest sign. "We are not collateral." Olivia zoomed in. The face looked familiar. She stared, then whispered, "Is that Alan Myers?" She opened his name in the company database. Mid-state plant, mortgage default, delivery partner termination. She read on, the list of transactions painting a tragic portrait of someone she'd never met, but entirely owned. She leaned back, shaken but curious. Olivia didn't feel guilt. She felt intrigue. She whispered, "A survivor." Something flickered behind her eyes. Maybe recognition, maybe threat. For the first time, one of her data points had a voice. Alan began posting online, videos filmed from a cracked phone, shot from the front seat of his car. "My name is Alan Myers," he said, "and this is what happens when your life becomes someone else's portfolio." His voice shook, but grew steadier with each clip. He shared stories. His, Lily's, others he met at shelters. The videos spread. 1,000 views became 10,000. Then, 100. His inbox filled with similar tales. Teachers, veterans, single moms, all crushed beneath the same name, Trident. Alan didn't ask for donations. He asked for attention. "They bought my house, my debt, my silence, but I'm still here." He stared into the lens like it was a battlefield. The war wasn't over. It had just begun. Olivia scrolled through Alan's videos. His voice echoed from her phone as she sat alone on her penthouse balcony. For the first time in years, she hesitated. She poured herself a drink, eyes on the skyline. "He's dangerous," said her head of PR. "Sympathy is contagious." Olivia whispered, "He's a symptom." The PR rep offered damage control plans, influencers to discredit him, legal angles to mute his reach. Olivia waved them off. "No, let him speak." The rep blinked. "Why?" Olivia turned, glass in hand. "Because I want to see how far one voice can really go." Whether it was arrogance or fascination, she let the game continue. But under her calm exterior, a new emotion stirred. Uncertainty. Alan and Lily attended a small town hall meeting in a church basement. Folding chairs, paper name tags, stale coffee. But the room buzzed. Others had seen his videos. One woman hugged him, tears in her eyes. "You said what I couldn't." Alan looked overwhelmed. He wasn't a leader. He was a man surviving. But now survival had turned into something louder. "We need to organize," said a retired teacher. "We need to fight back." Alan stood, unsure. "I'm just a delivery driver," he said. A voice called out, "You're the spark." And he was. In a country ruled by debt and silence, Alan had broken both. And the fire had only just begun. Alan sat before a live stream setup inside a donated office space above a thrift store. The signal was weak, the walls thin, but his voice carried weight now. "They took my home, not my voice," he declared. Thousands watched. He had no speechwriters, no slogans, just truth. I've delivered food to towers where billionaires sip champagne, while my kid sleeps in my back seat. If that doesn't scare you, it should. Behind him, Lily colored quietly, headphones on. Outside, a line of reporters formed. What started as a cry for help had become a movement. Across the nation, people began tagging their own stories. #Main Street burns. Alan stared at the lens. Trident is a machine, but machines can be stopped when people pull the plug together. The chat exploded. The system had pushed too far. And now, the resistance had a face. At Trident skyscraper headquarters, the storm had arrived. Olivia watched in silence as stock tickers plunged. Social sentiment is tanking, her analyst said. Congressional probes are opening. Cities are freezing evictions. Olivia sipped her coffee. Adapt. We're too exposed, someone muttered. She walked into the boardroom and flipped the switch on the holographic display. Alan's live stream played mid-sentence. They made him a hero, the CFO grumbled. Olivia's eyes narrowed. No, they made him a mirror. She turned toward the window. The empire she built stood tall, but the ground beneath it was cracking. She wasn't losing yet, but for the first time she felt the tremor. And in that tremor, she saw the flaw. She had underestimated what a wounded country could do when it finally opened its eyes. Alan was invited to testify before Congress. The chamber echoed with tension. He wore a borrowed suit, slightly loose at the shoulders. Senators whispered. Reporters clicked. He cleared his throat. I'm not an economist. I'm a father. I lost everything to a system designed to profit off failure. Gasps. Inequality. Got boards, got a roll. Dotton. Silence. Then pens scribbling. He continued, if banks are too big to fail, then families should be too. If you want to fix the economy, start by remembering who it was built for. Cameras zoomed in. His voice didn't shake this time. He wasn't just speaking for himself, he was speaking for millions. Some nodded. Some frowned. But all listened. Because in a hall filled with polished lies, Alan's worn truth rang like a bell. Olivia watched the testimony from her office. Alone. The skyline behind her felt distant now. On her desk lay 2 folders, one marked Expansion Plan, the other Restructure. She stared at them unmoving. Outside, a protest grew. Signs filled the streets. Homes, not profits. Main Street is America. Her phone buzzed. Shareholders panicking, media hounding, allies backing out. She turned it over. Silence. Her reflection stared back from the window. The Queen of Finance, trapped in her own palace. A whisper escaped her lips. What have we built? The empire she once called brilliant now looked brittle. But was it too late to change? Or had she already gone too far to find her way back? Night fell across the city. Alan and Lily sat atop a hill overlooking the skyline. They didn't speak. Didn't need to. The noise had quieted, for now. A thermos of warm soup between them, a single flashlight flickering nearby. Are we going to be okay? Lily asked. Alan looked at her and said, we're going to be heard. Down below, thousands marched. Not just for Alan, but for themselves. For homes. For futures. For the idea that America could still belong to the people. This was no longer just a story of loss. It was a reckoning. Alan wrapped his coat around Lily's shoulders and whispered, they thought we were numbers. But we're not. The city lights pulsed below like a heartbeat. The fight had just begun. A month passed. The headlines had shifted, but the movement hadn't faded. A community center in a repurposed grocery store buzzed with life. Alan helped distribute boxes of donated supplies, diapers, rice, books. Volunteers moved like clockwork. A sign above read, People before profit. Lily helped stack crayons for the children's area. Laughter echoed. Hope was fragile, but it was growing. Alan took the mic at the front. We're not just surviving, we're rebuilding. Applause. He wasn't just a protester now, he was a neighbor, a builder, a voice for those the system had ignored. The pain hadn't vanished. But something had shifted. People no longer looked down. They looked at each other. And that was a start. At Trident HQ, the boardroom was nearly empty. Olivia stood alone, reviewing a new mission statement, ethical finance in a new America. It felt hollow. Rebranding wouldn't erase the past. Shareholders had forced a pivot, community reinvestment, loan forgiveness, softer PRG. But Olivia knew better. Systems don't change from fear. They change from pressure. She looked out the window, at a city she no longer controlled. The gears still turned, but slower. Alan's name had become shorthand for resistance. She admired his fire, even if it scorched her. For a brief second, she smiled, bitter and human. Then she walked out, leaving the statement behind. Real change would take more than slogans. It would take surrender. Alan sat in a classroom filled with folding chairs and worn chalkboards. He was speaking to high school seniors about financial literacy, credit, debt traps, rent versus equity. They hope you don't ask questions, he said. So start asking. The students nodded, wide-eyed. One raised her hand. Did you ever think you'd be teaching? Alan smiled. I never thought I'd survive. Behind him, Lily helped draw a graph on the board. Education was now his revolution. It wasn't viral. It wasn't loud. But it was lasting. He wasn't burning the system down. He was replacing it, one mind at a time. And this, he knew, was how empires truly fall, not with flames but with knowledge. In her private apartment, far removed from the tower, Olivia sat beside a small box filled with old photographs, her as a child, her parents, a small house with a foreclosure sign. She hadn't looked at them in years. She poured a drink, but didn't sip it. Instead, she picked up a pen and began writing, not for shareholders, but for herself. She scribbled, what would it look like to build without breaking? No press release. No branding. Just a question she didn't have the answer to yet. Outside her window, the city pulsed as usual. But inside, for the first time, Olivia didn't feel invincible. She felt real. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to begin again. The seasons shifted. Leaves turned gold. Alan and Lily walked through a farmer's market filled with music, laughter, and handmade signs reading, community owned. Vendors offered fresh bread. Children danced. Alan shook hands with a woman starting a credit union. We've got room if you want in, she said. Alan nodded. Yeah, I do. Lily tugged his hand toward a booth with puppies. Can we? She asked. Alan smiled. Let's meet them. His hands were calloused now, not from loss but labor. They had nothing fancy. But they had enough. As Lily held a dog with floppy ears, Alan looked around and whispered, We're home. Not a structure. Not a loan. But a place rebuilt, not by profit, but by people. In a quiet park at sunrise, Alan sat on a bench beside Lily, sipping coffee from a paper cup. She rested her head on his shoulder, still wrapped in a hoodie too big for her. The city woke slowly, dog walkers, joggers, street cleaners. Alan watched it all in silence. He said, You know, I used to think money was the only thing that kept the world spinning. Lily looked up, sleepy-eyed. It's not. He smiled. Turns out it's people. People who keep showing up. She nodded like she understood. Maybe she did. He'd lost everything, but here she was, still beside him. That was more than most empires could say. The sun rose behind them, gold bleeding across skyscrapers. The world hadn't changed. But Alan had. And sometimes, that's where change begins, with one man deciding not to disappear. A journalist uploaded a story titled, Alan Myers, the man who shouted back. It was shared thousands of times, in minutes. A headline on cable news read, Main Street's voice shakes the foundation. Politicians debated foreclosure reform. Trident stocks wavered again. But Alan didn't see any of it. He was helping a neighbor lift a broken fence. Tools in hand. No camera. No speech. Just labor. Just community. The revolution wasn't in headlines. It was in action. And around the country, others followed. Not in riots, but in rebuilding. Not in hashtags, but in handshakes. Olivia saw the article too. She didn't comment. Just stared for a long time, then closed the window and stepped outside. Maybe to walk. Maybe to listen. Inside a small-town elementary school auditorium, Alan stood backstage as Lily prepared to read a poem. The lights dimmed. Applause echoed. She stepped onto the stage, holding a paper with shaky hands. "This is called What I Saw," she said. Her voice was small but clear. She read about sleeping in cars, about soup lines and suitcases, about a father who never gave up. The crowd was silent. Some cried. Alan watched from the wings, wiping a tear. This wasn't about politics. This was her truth. Unfiltered, uncoached, and brave. When she finished, the room erupted. Not for the poem, but for the voice behind it. For the story no one had asked for, but everyone needed to hear. In a quiet alleyway, someone spray-painted on a brick wall, "We are not collateral." Below it, someone else added, "Alan was here." No one claimed credit. No one had to. The message belonged to everyone now. It spread from wall to wall, city to city. A new kind of graffiti. All to memory. Olivia walked past one such wall late one night. She paused, ran her fingers across the faded letters. And for the first time, she felt something unfamiliar. Humility. She didn't call security. Didn't erase it. Just stared. The war hadn't ended. But something had changed. The silence had broken. And now it had left a mark, one that wouldn't wash off. The screen fades to black. A single voice echoes, Alan's. "You can take my house, my job, even my dignity. But you can't take my story." Then, silence. Then one final frame. A quote. "In America, ownership was never just about land. It was about voice." Fade to the credits, set to the quiet hum of a street at night, cars passing, laughter in the distance, wind rustling leaves. No music. Just life. A reminder that while power plays out in towers, the real America still walks home in worn shoes, still tucks its kids in on tired couches, and still rises again every morning. Not for profit, but for purpose. Because Main Street never really fell. It was just unheard. Until now.